What is an ex crush? You know that some of the lessons I apply in my life, the grateful traumas I have, some of the things that I had to apply otherwise and find a way for them to have happened for a reason, they come from my romantic attitudes and they have been there because otherwise it's just a bunch of heavy weight. It's like you don't want to have to deal with this stuff, but you have to do something. Time does not heal by itself. You saw it in the rule book earlier. I taught about lesson 13 on the Pine book, but time itself does not heal. Healing heals. If you read that before, clever you. But for me, I haven't actually literally hit off with anyone before. I haven't been someone who could just walk out of a situation, which literally happens if it doesn't for me anyways, but literally happens and it actually didn't technically happen. So people who have been in relationships for intercourse, freaking, just any connection actually in particular, anything like business, friendships, family, you have a pet or something, like I did in the other video for the 40-minute video, any connection, and even not even considering individuals and beings, but just any connection you've been in, you have to usually recover from it in some shape or form. I think in an intrinsic sense, you even need to heal from things that are still going well. And I don't know how that works, but when it comes to romance and dating and you know the other stuff, which by the way that causes soul ties, but it's different. But you're going to want to try to do something before you let it go about it, like and as far as healing, like doing something about why it happened, finding gratitude from the lesson, which hopefully is implied out by you saying that, where you make up a lesson for why something happens to heal from it, the proper kind of healing, as I'm understanding it by. But I'm doing this for things that have not happened, like instead of ex relationships, ex friends, ex, and I don't mean this to be disarming myself, but it's not so much an ex relationship or an ex connection that maybe would have been a connection. It's an ex crush or greater number of them that I'm dealing with in this video, talking about this video. It's like, so what is an ex crush? It's someone who, beyond the infatuation stage, even if you still cared about them, you never actually did anything with them. But the connection changes because not only are they not necessarily a part of your life anymore, you just need to break off the cycle yourself, even if nothing sentimentally happened or even actually happened. It's like ex crushes are just basically anyone that you actually remotely had a bond with that aren't actually part of your life anymore, technically never were, technically don't even make it look any different from when if you were actually connecting with anyone else for that matter in the meantime. But um, it's a bit of an interesting. It sounds like I'm being creative on purpose, but I am anyways. Wherever that means. Yeah, but yeah, it's yeah, you So yeah, some of my traumas do in fact come from ex crushes, and some of you may I don't even know if they watch my videos, but like any of my crushes for that matter. But you have to heal from some of these things. It's like it doesn't matter how estranged or traumatic or specific these things get, you still have to heal from them. And it's like the primary lesson I applied from one of the other crushes, I immediately applied this lesson as soon as I learned it, and I was already grateful. It's the one with the one of the successful ones, financially at least, and she was also very like without getting too into disclosure, it's like she was just basically like a very troubled woman. She my experience with her was like where you don't have to um, worry about what the same thing is between. So the lesson the way I summarize this lesson is basically doing the same thing as other people does not make you the same as them. And it sounds corny. It doesn't even make sense sometimes. But the reason I say that is because if you are to have boundaries, if you are to be someone who takes risks or walks your dog to the Navy Foundation for some reason, or you take a potato cannon and you shoot it as a firework on 4th of July. Like, why would that be bad? You're still, it doesn't matter if it's the same thing as other people or even different. You're still going to be able to be okay with it because you don't have to worry about anyone else. Swimming in your own lane and not comparing yourself for the wrong reasons is a very important thing, in my experience already. And by applying this new lesson of doing the same thing as the people does not mean the same thing, this makes this X crush worth it. Because now I applied a lesson and I'm grateful for the trauma. I wouldn't change the trauma even if I had a choice, even if I could. And that is the connection that you have to make with yourself. Don't be like stopping midway or most of the way into that healing and being like, well, why can't this connection work anyways? Like if you're almost there, keep going. And so that's one of the main lessons I learned since practicing trauma healing. And then there's a few other ones I'll probably mention out in this video for now. One of my other crushes, ex-crushes, she I didn't know how I figured this out sooner, but yeah, karmic. It's not fun. It's like I wasn't particularly threatened by this relationship at first because again, ex-crush, so I have zero dating experience, zero sex experience, you name it. But this was someone who had a lot of their own shtick to deal with, and if I didn't know in the meantime, it definitely got worse later. But I didn't. There was no obvious way to tell what was happening, even as gullible and naive as I can be myself. But this person, she's considered the ideal relationship type for people like me, for that regard. And even in spite of her own troubles, it could have actually worked. But again, ex-crush, so there you go. But so the lesson I learned from her is that time by itself does not heal. Healing heals. If I said at the beginning of this video, on that charter, on the Pine book, it's when you wait for things to change, essentially they won't. There are some things, because I believe in luck. I believe in good luck, but a little different from that. From the people on the No Fun Student Attention movement, actually very much so the fact that porn and sex will affect you negatively if you let it. And for the most part, some of it even already does, including pornography. But time itself does not heal. You want to be someone who actively does something about their traumas, which is kind of the point of learning these lessons, not limited to romance. And it's like, so yeah, that's a lesson learned from this other girl. And so one other lesson I'm learning from someone in very recent, I don't know if she's watching these. She wasn't even remotely my friend. It was someone who I got along with pretty well, even like on a social level. This was someone, I think they were a friend of one of my other friends, and she did not seem so bad. Like, consider all things considered, it's like, but I could tell there was a bit of insecurity there, and it's not her. Technically, I'll just say this: it's like there was not a way for that to work even then, even if it was like a little better from my own vibration, considering that. But to be able to check myself for that matter, because you always have to check your vibration. But the lesson I learned from this recent connection is something along the lines of go all the way, maybe. It's kind of like, because this is super recent. This is like 3 to 6 months recent. Maybe even sooner than 3 months. But again, ex-crush, so whatever. And so it would just basically be go all the way. Don't do it halfway, as my dad would say. And then just making sure that I'm not necessarily someone who wants to be a perfectionist anymore, but that's just me. I don't want to have to be a perfectionist for things to work out, for anything in this life. But I'm going to go for a few more ex-crush lessons. One of the fonder ones I had, not too early on, but sometime in middle school, there were a couple connections there. Some really fond ones. This one where this one woman one girl had to move out. The kind of lesson I learned from that experience, whether it was traumatic or not, was your experiences are never beyond you. So even if they're already good, they're never beyond you. They're not things that you just whisk away, and then if they were better than your future, boo-hoo. I'm not that kind of person, really. I'm not going to whine about anything, really. but your experiences are never beyond you. The more standard way this could be said is just to say something like, "You're never bigger than your dreams," uh, but that could be for another time maybe. Uh, but your experiences are never beyond you. Even if you had a good childhood, you don't have to lose that as a standard for everything ahead of your life. Even if you want to, it doesn't have to be like that, or even seen that way. So she was a nice woman. She was a nice girl, really very pleasant. She seemed like the kind of person you would want to be friends with, anyways. But you always have to have that foundation of being in a friendship with anyone you're in a relationship with, anyways, in any standard at least. So a few more, if I can have time for this, connections. One other ex crush I had, um, we'll just stay it straight up, like way back, way back. Some of you remember this, so listen up. The lesson I learned from that connection, the really, really good connection that didn't stay anyways, from way back, the lesson I learned from that is that choose what you learn. Because a lot of us who go to college and get a job and don't even have to necessarily pay attention to the program that happens from the age 7 and behind, which gives you a good of hint who this person was. Uh, it could have been good. A lot of the program I have to this day was, some of it was still pretty good, because I actually, you know who you are. You taught me this one. I'm humble and lovable, and I'm being rewarded for it. Yeah, thank you. You gave me a head start on one of the best affirmations ever. Instead, and conditioning with my own affirmation for I'm excited and happy I love my life for more than a year almost. We're getting there at some point. But and I already am happy and excited in my life. So it just needs to subconsciously program in. Very, very soon it will do that. And it's already getting to me to the point of being in a high vibration anyways. So choose what you learn. And this is a little corny to say like that from this girl, because I didn't have a problem with her really. She had issues. I had issues. I still have issues, but it's like everyone does. But it's just, but we don't really want to be someone who does not change, as far as how most of the world does not even change by default, and not necessarily without choice, but without even actually doing it. So choose what you learn. Don't don't make it a moot point to be a victim to your circumstances, really, even if they were only good, or good consequences, positive consequences, as a different way of connotating that. One more ex crush lesson. Okay, there's a girl I keep fantasizing about in the future that I was sure about was going to be only a scholar partner, and I think some of you already know where I was going with this. It's that connection that I've been obsessing about. I had to let that go. Not even the part of it that I wanted to manifest. Is like I had to let that go, because it's like it's not really so much that it can't happen or that it won't work out. It's just I shouldn't have to have expectations for that to work out. The lesson I'm learning from that obsession and that maybe kind of unpredictable scenario, which does not only be bad or even merely be good for a weaker or weird reason, is that don't get in your own way. Yeah, there you go. So there's a lot of communities out there. I'm not saying which one to listen to, but I'm not saying which one to not listen to. Don't get in your own way. No matter what you have to do in your life, there are things that you're going to have to do to maybe follow the rules, or to not screw things up in a way that can't be reversed, or even not knowing what you're doing next, to work harder or something, or work not as hard. Too many breaks, too much hard work, you name it. Don't stand in your own way. We're going to squeeze in one more ex crush lesson. The really, really traumatic one. Okay, and there's more than that. There's more. There's like some other less pleasant, more pleasant ones. That really, really traumatic one. Timeless and professional, that one. There is already a lesson I learned from that. The second that the trauma took place, but I won't, for the sake of brevity, maybe I'm going to just say that the lesson I learned that I'm grateful for, that doesn't make it something that I basically, again, would not change it even if I had a choice, because I wouldn't want to have that choice anyways. The lesson I learned from this one was Stay on the path. It felt terrible because it was like I thought there was no way that I could drive, like, because at the time my impression of what I was doing was basically what I'm doing now, which is healing. I was healing before I knew it was healing and healing from trauma. I was basically doing it for my whole life since like freaking ages 13 or 7 or whatever. Since literally programming in the subconscious has stopped happening by default from ages 7 to 13 and ahead. But so I've been basically healing my whole life without even knowing consciously that I was doing it. So good for me and everyone else to condition that, by the way. Stay on the path. You're not worried because the skiers on the ski lodges in the snowy mountains, they're not worried about hitting a tree, because if they think about hitting a tree, they will hit one, guaranteed. They're not thinking that. They're thinking about staying on the path of the ski slopes, because if they focus on just their program condition to not worry about the consequences of even trying to succeed, they will succeed. And not only that, but they will find a better way to navigate the consequences of what could go wrong than if they only worried about the things just because they want to have an excuse to. And it very much is an excuse to worry about things that could go wrong. You don't seek out negativity just because it's possible. You can embrace it, like I said in the other video. You can acknowledge it to reinforce your positivity and your attitude. But you don't just do that as if it will make things better. There's a way that this works. This is a complex world. Not complicated, I believe that personally for some reason, but it's not a complicated world, it's complex. There's intricate parts that you can work with, very manageable and very simple. We complicate this world ourselves. And I'm the kind of guy who did want to embrace this kind of like ex-crushes, how unique, how ironic. And I still recover from that, so there you go. But still am recovering. Healing never ends. Even when you find things working out in your life, you have to continue healing. So don't let anything particularly distract you from that, even if they weren't meant to do that. But it's like these are some lessons I learned from my ex-crushes. These are some lessons that I still have to apply even after the fact. And they will continue to help me in ways I may have to alter later and adjust. And trauma is going to come in the future. Trauma is happening right now. I may not even know what's bothering me right now. Maybe it's deeper than I understand, even deeper than me. But for the end card, there's nothing really going to be here this time anyways. If you never really had anything technically happen in your life, you always still have something to work with. This doesn't sound sensible right now, but believe me, I am going to be able to go places sooner or later where nothing will happen. And likewise, spending most of my life seemingly past the point where it's like, why would this happen? Why would I be someone where maybe nothing happens or everything happens too much in tandem with each other back and forth? Why would that happen? Bonus lesson for you guys, or bonus projection visualization actually. Maybe I stay in the same spot over and over and humble myself to heck, and I don't have to give up on things and get tempered with a very, very strong resilience and patience, because one of these days I'm going to be faced with something harder than most people can ever fathom, and I'm going to be capable of dealing with it, even if it's worse than anything I dealt with before. And that is going to be very fascinating and rewarding to see what I can deal with in the future that's harder than anything I'd ever dealt with before. But because I put up with things that were here already, it prepared me to get to that conditioning. And it prepared me in a way where even if I didn't have a choice to do what I wanted, it still made it better on the path for me to consciously decide that this was worth it and for a reason. Thank you very much, guys. Those are some ex-crush lessons. Gratitude, trauma healing, self-healing, you name it. Take care, everyone.